Or yo, what's up? My name's Patrouski. I wanted to make a basic guide covering the simple stuff heading into the PokeMMO Xmas or holiday event 2022, whatever tickles your fancy. Now, as you can see here, I'm in an instance full of all of the elf bots, which is essentially in Twist Mountain, which is in this sort of alternate universe. You talk to Santa, who is in, I believe, Castelia, Vermilion, Slateport, and Hearthome City in the respective regions. You talk to him while in a link of 4 people. You're going to want 4 people for this event as it's the most beneficial. You want a group of 4 people, get into a link, everyone talk to Santa or the Holiday Man at the same time. Everybody drops into this instance, and then you're presented with your first choice of selecting all your elf bots. There's also these 3 presents located around, as you can see in the instance, and those will give you a couple items to help you off starting off. There's a lot of things to talk about. Let's try to cover everything as best as possible. Now, there's gonna be a lot of different options in terms of which are the best strategies to pick. I honestly don't know the best strategies yet. From our limited run time, I think I ended up running with offensive ice and offensive psychic and did pretty well. I do think that combination wasn't the best in terms of coverage. Offensive ice seems really fantastic though. You do get the hail setting ability alongside Blizzard, but you only get 5 PP on the Blizzard. So this is going to be a very much a strategic sort of reserving resources while also going through waves and waves and waves of tower defense. I think the pledge strats that I mentioned here in the chat, this is all a past recording and I'm voicing over it. The pledge strats are probably fantastic. I'd probably recommend checking out stuff like grass offensive alongside fire offensive, weave in water offensive, etc, etc. Pledge moves are essentially a move that kind of combine and come together to create a more powerful move and more powerful effect. But the TLDR and the honest truth is that I don't know the best choice. It's way too early on into the event to know what the best type combination is. However, see what people are talking about in global chat, etc, etc. Use my advice given to you here, and then definitely try to run double offensive. I do think from me and my team's testing, it does seem like double offensive is the way to go. Being able to kill your opponent before they can damage you is very powerful. Now, whoever is the leader of the link actually matters here, because once you all pick your 2 types, you want to head over to the elf guy, and then the leader is going to select which type you start on, and then they'll rotate from there. This is going to select what enemies you're essentially selecting first, and once again, I don't know what's the best here. As soon as more strategies come out, I might make more in-depth videos, etc, etc, talking about typing options. However, it is important to note here, extremely important, that this event does not have double battles like last year or previous years. So previously, what happened is in this sort of dungeon or in this sort of instance, it would be very important to stick with another player. We'll see right here actually. It's very important to stick with another player, and it would be 2v2 battles. However, here this guy gets locked into a battle. Yeah, no double battles. This guy gets locked into a battle, and it's just a straight up 1v1 with him and the elf bot. That's a really big deal, a huge change, and it honestly makes the first wave of this instance way easier, way easier comparatively to last year. And then the second waves do end up becoming double battles, but we'll go ahead and get to that when it comes. Now, you are controlling 2 elf bots as opposed to you and your teammate having to work in tandem. There's way less communication needed here, which is awesome. You still are going to want to kind of attack and defeat as many elf bots as possible, while also collecting as many presents as possible. We'll get to presents here in a quick sec. So you see, presents sort of actually activate, or you can end up collecting items. So you get hyper potions, full restores, you can even get a revive for one of your bots, etc, etc. So collecting those presents passively while you're sort of defeating all the bots is super important. If not, it's not a big deal. Usually once you defeat all the bots, they all clear out, and then the boss goes to the center of the room, and then while all the bots are gone, you can go and collect all the presents for that round. There's always one like set amount of presents per round. You collect all those, you defeat the amount of there's a certain bar up in the top right hand corner. It's kind of covered by my shuckle counter here. Unfortunately, I forgot to turn it off, but it essentially levels or counts your power level, or the amount of, I guess, how far you've gone into the wave and how many bots you have defeated. So you can see me here. It's a 2v1 here. It's really important to preserve your PP. It's probably one of the most important things of this. Here I know that my psychic bot is faster than my ice elf bot, so I just go ahead and go for the psychic to one-shot the poison elf bot. I can go for flash cannon as a secondary thing to finish him off if something goes wrong, but it shouldn't be super needed. Once again, double offense here is really good in my opinion. Now, offense plus defensive, more of a balanced strategy, might be more worth it in those later waves. We didn't really get there. We got to like wave 3 or so, wave 3 or 4, so we got pretty decently far-ish for our first run. Now, in terms of profit, in terms of what we ended up getting our rewards, I did end up with 1 Santa present and I believe 5 Xmas present. I sold that Santa present for 300k, I believe, and then the Xmas presents I sold all 5 for around 28k or so. So really shorthand math, I made around 400 or so k, maybe like 4 to 450k. Maybe 400k after listing fees. So around 400k on that first run, and that took around 40 minutes. So that's obviously really, maybe 35 minutes or so. Really, really good Pokeyen per hour. Now, obviously, that's only at the start. I'm sure Santa presents are already dropping as we speak. Xmas presents, however, are pretty cheap already at the very start. I think people aren't super interested in them, which is kind of surprising, but still important to note. So most of the first wave is just more of the same. It's pretty simple stuff, just clearing out the bots as fast as possible, as well as trying to collect all the presents. It's pretty simple stuff. You try to do all this and then move on as quickly as possible. Being efficient and being pretty fast is pretty important. There's gonna be a lot of learning curve though for a lot of people. Make sure, guys, I know this might be a lot of people's first event. This might be a lot of people's 5th or 4th or 3rd event. Always be patient with people. Always try to be kind. Always try to be as nice as possible when interacting with these groups, especially if it's teammates or strangers or whoever it may be. Just try to be as kind as possible. I understand it can get frustrating at times. It's tense time of year as the holidays are, but just try your best. Keep it mellow. Maybe delete a thing you type or two. Just try to, move on and just try your best, okay? Whew. Here is a good example of me picking up a present. You might have missed it, but I think I picked up another one really quick here. I got 1 repair kit, which I believe is essentially a revive. And then I come grab this other one, and I believe it is a hyper potion over here. The present locations are a little tough to learn. They should be all the same, I believe, every round, or at least similar. Might be random spawn points. I'm not quite sure, but they should just be throughout the caves. Just make sure you check everything. Honestly, since we do have 4 people, it might be smart to designate people to certain parts of the map. Say, hey, you know what, player 1, you go northeast. Player 1, you go northwest. Player 2 or 3 or 4, whatever, you go southwest and southeast. Kind of like designate corners of the map. That might be the best way to break things up. An important piece of strategy here to call out is that I'm actually just running around collecting all the presents while one of my teammates is actually defeating the boss. So I know that he's fighting that, but I can't really help him. It's just a 1v1, so I'm letting him handle that while I go ahead and go do my other stuff. Alongside, it's important to note that you can see under Hazelmere's name and Xanarchy over on the left, they both have a Pokemon next to their sort of name and next to their elf bots. And I'll explain that more in a bit when we see more of that. But essentially, they defeated that Pokemon and an elf bot combination team. And that allowed them to gain access to those Pokemon. Now, those Pokemon were actually Pokemon brought in by the entire team. And it's apologies for not explaining this better at the start or explain this at the start. You actually have to bring in 4 Pokemon heading into this event. This is the first time, I believe, in a Christmas event where you've actually had to use your own Pokemon. So it's actually really important to bring in some competitive tier, high IV, EV trained, with correct item Pokemon into this event, because you're going to have to battle elf bots and then take control of them. I'll actually show you guys that here in a quick sec, where I actually battle someone and take control of Louis Official's Haxorus that he brought in. But first things first, here's our first double battle. So once you defeat round 1, which is the very, very easy round, you jump into round 2, which does become double battles and does become much harder, as I'll show you guys here. So I go ahead and Psychic the Poison Bot, obviously, to take him out. Pretty easy. Ice Beam the Psychic guy, hoping to be able to take him out next turn. I know that I can't just one-shot him here, unfortunately. He goes for Poison Gas and literally poisons both of my elf bots. This poses a huge issue, especially with Hail Chip coming in from my own Ice elf bot setting up the Hail. So this is pretty brutal chip on me. Obviously, I'm going to be able to take care of this guy pretty easily, but it's still pretty scary. I still have to deal with it, right? Every single battle taking that poison chip is going to be brutal. You can really tell how difficult double battles become versus singles when Louis Official is taken out first thing here in his first battle. It's just really tough. It's really tough, especially if you take on a double type matchup that you aren't prepared to take on with your team, or if you're rocking like a defensive type measure. It's going to be a very difficult situation. So just, you really got to practice, learn the type matchups, learn what bots to avoid. You don't just want to engage in every bot fight. Sometimes your team are going to have a better type matchup against certain bots, and you can just run away from them. There are going to be certain fights that are you have to engage in them. They're mandatory to be able to traverse over across the mountain, like certain parts of the mountain or whatever. But most of them can be dodged. Understanding your movement mechanics is going to be super crucial in Twist Mountain. Understanding when to run away, when to go left or right, etc., and understanding their pathing is going to be super important. It's a lot of practice. But now this is important, so I'm going to be able to take out this Psychic Elf bot pretty barely, and now it's going to be time to use potions. It's super, super important to understand that you share the potion pool and you share the bag with everyone on the team. So I'm about to use 2 full restores here, and that takes them away from everyone's pool of items, everyone on my team. So I better have a really good reason to be using them, right? You don't want to be wasting items because that wastes them for everyone. That would be extremely frustrating in a teammate situation. I think that was pretty reasonable there. Now, it is important though, you don't want to not use items, right? You don't want to let yourself end up dead with no elf bots left and be left with potions. That happens probably more often than you just dying because you ran out of items. So it's kind of a mixture. You want to make sure you do use your items instead of just fainting, but also don't overuse your items if your teammates might need them in clutch situations. So Louis gets taken out pretty early on, and it is important to note that unfortunately once you are defeated, I don't believe there is a way of bringing you back. Maybe that will be changed, or maybe someone can correct me in the comments down below, but that was super unfortunate. And then it's also important to note that you get prizes based on how you finished, not your team. There were very different prize pools and different prize handouts among this group of 4 people. I believe me and Hazel I think Hazel ended up doing the most. Hazel ended up lasting the longest. He got the most amount. Xanarchy got like 1 less Xmas present than me, I believe. Some sort of combination like that. So it is actually dependent on how you finish, not how the rest of your team finishes. So you can kind of just get in a group of 4 people, communicate decently, communicate to some extent, and play this event pretty self-sufficient, which I actually do really like. Obviously, you know, it is super important to still communicate, and teamwork is important. However, I'm definitely a huge fan of more self-sufficient solo play events, so I do kind of like this. I think this is a perfect mix, whereas last year it was so unbelievably team reliant. If someone made a mistake, it was a really big and frustrating deal, whereas here, if someone like dies, it's not really a big deal. It doesn't really affect the team too much. I mean, it does suck that, you know, you have to clear more. Everyone else will have to clear more elf bots, obviously, but it's not the end of the world, and it hurts them more than you, which is honestly, you know, more fair. And hopefully that creates a less frustrating and more healthy experience overall, especially when teaming up with randoms and such. Here, I actually end up having to use more full restores because of the amount of damage I'm taking and my Pokemon being put to sleep. Huge shout out to my team for carrying me and allowing me to take on those full restores. So much appreciation to them. I definitely sucked those out of our team bag. So if you're watching this, I love you guys and I do appreciate it. My team really did help me out with a fantastic first run. Now here is where we see the Haxorus situation. I thought this was pretty cool, so I talked about this in chat. I didn't understand how this worked. It's a quote-unquote Sentry, and that is Louis Official's Haxorus, funnily enough. And after I defeat this, you actually take control of it in your party. So you can actually sort of start to stock up Pokemon and start to stock up quote-unquote quasi-elf bots, and that is going to be super crucial to you extending your runs and getting those super long runs to get large amounts of Xmas presents and Santa presents to make more Pokeyen. This is also super important, managing the amount of elf bots you have and everything to get to that top 50 leaderboard if you're interested in that special prize. Alright, so we can watch me defeat him there, and then I go ahead and just immediately get him in my party. That's so sick, I say. It's pretty cool. Louis saying that he has a Haxorus in his party, so we're kind of figuring out like, oh, like this actually is Louis Official's Haxorus. He even has his OT, which I didn't notice the first part, but it was a pretty random Haxorus, but it had, you know, a very PVM Haxorus. So I was like, you know what? I couldn't send it to the link chat. I was like, you know what? This makes sense. This actually definitely probably is your Haxorus. It has his OT. I think this is a super interesting and unique mechanic. We haven't seen this before during the Christmas event. I think it's a really cool way to sort of benefit those veteran players while also allowing newer players to still jump into this event. Most newer players can jump into an event very quickly. I would love to make a video actually kind of showing how fast you can jump into this event from scratch, working your way up to this event in one day on a fresh account. That'd be a very cool series. So if you want to see that, make sure to let me know in the comments and maybe like this video and subscribe if you want to see daily PokeMMO uploads. Now, when someone is defeated, you can see off to the left there, Louis Official is a drone, and that's exactly what happened last year and previous years. One of the funniest glitches I actually mentioned here was people being able to glitch out of the instance as a drone. Really cool little feature in my opinion. All right, here we have the next boss coming up. Hazel was nice enough to ask me if I wanted to go ahead and do it, but I wanted him to do it because he had a better advantage. He had more Pokemon in his party. It was just better, and it made more logical sense for the team and for the run. For him to do it, I can just spectate him and see what happens. So he actually has someone's Typhlosion. It's named Twin 1, which is a great name for Typhlosion for a gym run. He goes ahead and help enhance it, gets off a huge Eruption. This damage is insane, and I do think Eruption Typhlosion is going to be pretty good in this matchup. Not going to lie, in this game mode. Look at that. Now he obviously earthquakes, he gets off a ton of damage, but at that point, Typhlosion's honestly done its job. It's done so much damage to this thing, being able to almost two-shot it here. I think he does end up living at 1 HP or so, unfortunately. I even call it. I think I'm like, this might kill, or it's going to be really close. I think I end up typing here in chat, but I think I'm a little late here. This might kill. I say that this might kill or be really close. Yeah, it ends up being living around 1 HP. He does end up KOing the Typhlosion, which is unfortunate. But I do think if you bring a really, really good Typhlosion here, it's probably really good. I did bring my Whimsicott and Torkoal as well, and I think that was a bad play. That was probably a mistake. So don't bring your Whimsicott and Torkoal. Only bring the Typhlosions, and then maybe some just more powerful. Don't bring the set of Pokemon is the general consensus from the gym rerun teams if you're familiar. But here is him defeating the boss, and after he does so, it does reset the round. You have to do everything all over again, clear out waves of the elf bots, and then there you go, and collect more of the presents and everything of the sort. The enemies have grown stronger, so there's still double battles here. This is wave 3 that we got to. There are still, it doesn't go to triple battles or anything, but it is double battles. It is super unfortunate that your teammates don't respawn. We were talking about that because there is so much downtime that ends up happening if your teammates don't respawn. I don't know what, or get revived or anything. I feel like people just are going to be AFKing so much, like finishing, getting pretty far and then just AFKing. It feels a little funny to have them just be able to do essentially nothing and not really be able to help much at all throughout the rest of the run. It's pretty unfortunate. But from here on out, I'm pretty sure it's just more of the same, just me trying to take down as many elf bots as possible. Eventually, my Hatterus does ended up taken out, so unfortunately, the run was pretty much headed downhill from here, but this was still a really fantastic first run, and I think from here on out, it's going to depend a lot on discovering those type matchups and discovering which elf bots to select in combination. I lost my Hatterus in that one clip, and then I lose my Ice Elf Bot in this next clip. He's at 1 HP there, but he ends up taken out, so I lose him as well, and now I'm left to 1v2 a couple matches with the Psychic Elf Bot, which actually end up working with some pretty hilarious Hyper Beam strats, but I wasn't going to be able to last until the next round, and I kind of always knew that. But I essentially just kept getting whittled down until I was finally taken out, and my Psychic Elf Bot was finally defeated. Now, it's important when you're so weak like this just to try to dodge as many of the elf bots as possible and try to pick up all those presents that you can find. It's super important because you might be able to stay in it, you might be able to grab that hyper potion, etc., etc. Now, here's my reward. As you can see, final store for 75 Xmas presents, 1 Santa present. We can see waves cleared, plus 75. We see some question marks in there. Bosses defeated, plus 80. Pokemon rescued, plus 240. That's a decent amount of points there. And presents opened, plus 75. This run, once again, took around 35 minutes to complete, 36 minutes by the recording time. But we started really, really slow. If you cut out all of that, I guess, dilly-dallying at the beginning, probably could have been 30 minutes. Definitely, maybe even 25 or 20 once you get really, really efficient and know what you're doing. But it definitely was a ton of fun and made a ton of Pokeyen during that first run for sure. It'll get worse and worse as the event goes on, but definitely recommend everyone trying it out at least once. Now, I did actually end up getting a fatal render error and crashing at the end of this, so watch out for that. I don't know if it's a common issue or if it was just me, but do be aware of that. And that's pretty much it. I know this guide may have been a little more rambly, but hopefully it was decently in-depth, insightful, and enjoyable. Thank you all so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Make sure to like the video if you did enjoy your stay here. Dislike if you didn't. Subscribe to the channel for daily PokeMMO content and uploads. I also stream Monday through Thursday, and I'll be covering this event in-depthly. I'll be trying to make a video on every single new topic, every single new feature brought into the game for sure. My Discord link is down below if you're looking for any teams to or people to team up with to take on this event with, which is always fantastic. And then if you want to go above and beyond and support my content, if I've been able to help you in some way, becoming a YouTube member for $5 or dropping a Twitch Prime or a Twitch sub over on my Twitch, or even hitting up my PayPal or Venmo, which are linked down below, are great ways to allow me to keep trying to make the best PokeMMO content possible. Thank you all so much. I really do appreciate all of your time and support, especially since today's been a little bit of a weird day. I ended up testing positive for COVID early on in the morning, which was pretty unfortunate timing considering the event did start today. So if you heard my voice sort of being a little weak or if me gasping for breath here and there, that's the reasoning. So I do appreciate any sort of patience with the upcoming guides, the upcoming content for this event. I'm trying to push out as much content as possible, as safely as possible, and as reasonably as possible. But that's it. That's the end of my final ramble, guys. I promise. I appreciate you all. Have a great day, and good luck with the Christmas event. Yo, if you're watching this, that means you watched the entire video. So first things first, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. And if your name is on this list, that means you go above and beyond and support the channel and allow me to do what I do every single day. Thank you so much, and have a great day.